Welcome to Swamp Talk, where we talk about everything in Magic the Gathering. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about pods, what we do, what we like to do, what some other people like to do. So, before we peel back these layers, if you like our videos, please like, subscribe. It really helps that YouTube algorithm. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Thomas.
Let's get into this. So, pods. Um, Everybody has their own pod. You know, a lot of people are part of multiple pods. Every one of them has kind of their own flavor. Um, you know, when it comes to us, we kind of play at power level, with the modern bracket system. Don't come at me. I understand it's not great, but it's what everybody has now. So we're going to reference it. But we play, around bracket 2 and 3 for the majority. We have
Mm-hmm.
some game changers. We definitely have some tutors, but, we're not like highly optimized. We both have a deck that could not necessarily win CEDH, but we could be annoying,
Yeah.
um, just to say the least. But it's not really what we typically play in our group. Um, it's kind of what we like to do. When it comes to infinite combos, do we have decks with them? Yeah. We don't have a lot of them. They're not really 2 card
Mm-hmm.
combos. We run a lot more of we need this 6 pieces to assemble the forge, and wow, isn't that cool? Very very telegraphed kind of things. But if this hits the board, this is the final piece. Any responses? The game's kind of over. Um, and then kind of our third thing is when it comes to proxies, we don't proxy anything in our main pod. We play with a few other like tertiary pods where there's some proxies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not the end of the world to us. I know a couple of the guys out that we play with. It's literally just a money thing for them. I mean, they have some real cards and then some proxies. They're usually fresher players. I get it. We've had 15 years to build a collection. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier to rationalize that versus, hey, go spend $1,000. You got that? Then our pod, as many do, we have what I would call soft bands. Cyclonic Rift. Uh, I hate I hate that card so much. I don't think I've ever seen a blue player untap with 7 mana and me be like, okay, I can now just tap out. It's like, nope, we have to have a response. He's gonna Cyclonic Rift.
Yep.
Man, I do not like that card. Secondly, our second kind of soft ban, Ad Nauseum. Again, it's a soft ban. It almost always turns these ridiculous, silly turns where sometimes people can finish the game, sometimes they can't. It just doesn't feel like a fun card to us. And then the third card, I think pretty much people can universally agree is just not fun. Grand Arbiter Augustin the Fourth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's really powerful stacks. Everybody pays more, you pay less. Man, it's not a fun card. It's
No.
just not a fun card. I remember we were playing it. I had it in a deck, and I'm like, man, this thing is just it doesn't win you the game. It just makes everybody else hate you just a little bit. And then kind of like the last thing to our pod, free spells. Deadly Rollick, Fierce Guardianship. We have those. We run them. If we're playing a Mardu deck, we're not going to have all 3 of them, but we're going to have some amount of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a we like to have. This deck's really great with the Deadly Rollick. Okay, that one in particular will have it. So obviously we're not playing at the super high power levels, but that's where we like to play. We've been playing that for a while, and honestly, if our close group, I haven't really seen a reason to change it.
Yeah.
You know.
I would. Yeah. I think it's very important to kind of like bring into discussion. Like this is all an agreement of the pod that we have established, right? So this is something that we're comfortable with in the pods that we play with. We play with people that are either new to the game, maybe don't have as much money to spend on the game. So like this is our way of pseudo trying to keep things a little bit more fair, right? Like it also allows for you to play more decks that you know, as power levels get, we have all seen it where you have a deck, it starts off okay, and then slowly you're adding cards, and all of a sudden it goes from this okay deck to a pretty good deck to what have we made, right? Like it can be a little daunting, right, to play against. And having some of these rules helps kind of establish the boundaries where even though you've made a deck that's really good, you haven't made a deck that is beyond our ability to answer. And this is kind of where we try to aim. Now, I've played with a couple of different pods where we've had different rules. I've played with a pod where there is no rules, right? You play whatever deck you want to play, and you know what? We're all gonna have fun, and that's very cool. There are some pods that we played with that are super super strict about the rules they have. I mean, I've heard, I've never been part of a pod like this, but I mean, I've heard of pods banning like things like Soul Ring, and while that is like, while I would not love that, but that is an agreement of a pod.
Yeah, I think you hit a really good example though. You know, the we were out playing and these two guys we play with, they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't put Soul Ring and Arcane Signet in our decks." And it was weird because like otherwise their decks were probably a 3, but just for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, the two cards that are in like what 99.9% of decks, I'd say, just weren't there, and they're just like, we just don't like them. It wasn't an access thing because obviously everybody who plays Commander has one. Uh, they're just like, we don't like them. We don't like that kind of thing. They ran the talismans. They're like, well, we like it when you're getting that ramp. You have to pay that life for that colored mana. And I'm like, in a weird way, that's kind of a fun like deck challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you really want that mana flexibility, you got to pay life for it, and then it's not just outside of the fetches. Which is I think one of the biggest things uh, that a lot of pods don't consider is
Yeah.
how powerful fetches and shocks are.
Oh.
It mana fixing, especially with 3-color, 4-color decks. I mean, we have several fetches. We have fetches and shocks, just not in all of our decks. It's not our land base for every deck we have. Obviously not every deck needs them,
Mm-hmm.
but man, we've played against some people where I'm like, man, this was a 4-color deck with all the shocks, all the fetches, Ancient Tomb, the Triome. I'm like, my God, this man's land base costs more than my deck.
Yeah.
It's just crazy when you really, depending on the pod and how you're playing, just your land base really affects the speed and the accuracy at which you can play. I mean, we've played with some of these guys who have unfixed land bases from precons, and man, the temples. I mean, yeah, they're so slow. They're so clunky. Same with so many of the other lands in so many of these precons. And I mean, my personal favorite is watching someone playing an exotic orchard and be like, "Oh, no one at the table has green, and I need green."
Yeah.
It's one of the most unfortunate things I've ever seen. Where it's like, well, maybe no, let's cut the exotic orchard, put in a forest.
You want to talk about how powerful a land base is? They have the scry lands and the surveil lands. They effectively do the same exact thing. They look at the top card of your library and they put it either on the bottom of your deck or they put it into your graveyard. Now, why is so many people saying that the surveil land is so much better than the scry land? Well, because it's fetchable.
Fetchable, baby. Fetchable. It's
It's
unbelievable. But when
it's
all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we can go find this with 6 other cards, it's like, man, that's so much better. I have several that come into play tapped lands that I run just because they're fetchable. Like they're slow lands, but I can go find them out. Like especially if when I'm in my blue, when I'm running Nature's Lore and Farseek and all these other things, I'm like, man, I'm gonna go find this weird thing. I'm gonna pull it out of my deck. I don't really need to have the mana this turn. It's just crazy.
yeah.
But it's really interesting how those pods have those little rules where no Soul Ring, no Arcane Signet. We don't like Cyclonic Rift. We say that both of us have a deck with Rhystic Study in it,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
But granted, we don't have Rhystic Study. We don't move it around or have tons of copies. And in all honesty, as someone who does play Rhystic Study in one of his decks, there reaches a point where I get annoyed. Do you want to pay the one?
Yeah.
Um, it's annoying for the wrong reasons. It's not something we soft ban. It's just something we just don't really try to include. To be honest, I think part of the reason why I try not to put Rhystic Study and Smothering Tide in some of these into a lot of our decks is it feels really boring, especially when we're already including Soul Ring and Arcane Signet. It feels really silly. I'm like, what do we already have? Because of the land base and then the mana signets, what do we already have 50 cards already decided before we even build the deck? Like,
Well, it also brings on like some idea of like consistency, where consistency and especially a commander game can be boring. Right? If you're playing the same game over and over again, it just doesn't really bring the kind of fun that I think a lot of people are looking for. And and things like Ristic Study kind of they do that. They bring on a level of consistency that can make that boring play, right? We have 100 cards in our deck, or I guess really 99. 99 cards in our deck. What is the chance that every single game you're going to see the same card? Well, not great unless you have a Ristic Study. Then those chances become a lot greater. And that can be unfortunate. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Ristic Study. It's one of my favorite cards, but yes, it can bring a lot of boringness into your game. So especially if you have, uh, not only Ristic Study in your deck, but you have cards that can find your Ristic Study. That makes it even more boring, I guess you could say.
I have, and we both do, we have in a deck with Infect in it. And the
Yeah.
only time I'll ever play that is against the Shieldred deck because I feel like that's the kind of strength that the Shieldred deck is. And Infect is a famously fun and fair mechanic that everybody enjoys.
Super fair. I mean, it's right
The
along the
fairest.
levels of Dredge. Dredge is absolutely fair as well.
Completely balanced. Nobody has ever been upset at that mechanic, ever once.
But yeah, I mean, like going back to your board wipe thought, like talking about the play group that we played at an event. I mean, this guy brought out Omnath. I mean, this is a powerful card, and so like you're gonna play power. Okay, that's fine. And then two board wipes come out, and this guy is about to table flip because he's like, you're that bad person, right? Who doesn't want to, who just wants to play, board wipes all the time, and it really kind of threw us all off because I know that you and I were thrown off. The third person at the table was also like, I don't I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what the problem is because like you're playing Omnath. You're playing what is a very powerful commander, and you're mad that people are interacting with your board. I don't know what like it's one of those interesting things like should we have had that real zero conversation? I guess we should have. But at the time, this guy's bringing out Omnath. I don't think that it was really necessary to have that conversation about board wipes because you're bringing out Omnath. And yeah,
Yeah. It's just really interesting. Again, there's some people that just, for whatever reason, in their pod, they just play four guys sit down and they all play solitaire, and whoever makes the solitaire the quickest wins. There's no interaction, there's no board wipes, there's no counter spells, there's no removal. Um, and if that's what your pod wants, great. That's definitely not our pod. Our pod, like, when we put down a combo piece, it's always, does this resolve? you know, or I'm moving to combat. At the start of combat, it's always
mm-hmm.
how far will this combo piece survive, because we all like that kind of interaction. And it's one of those things that I think as a group we love a good stack. Like, man, if we can have all four players in the table have something on the stack, that's a good game. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
like to see. I know some people might like or dislike that, but man, if you can get a stack 7, 8, 9 cards, different players, really, and it's always interesting when the fourth player just lets things resolve, lets things resolve, and then just at the last moment, and I'm going to do this, and you're just like, oh, all three of us just lost because of priority. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Just watching that last, especially when they realize that they're the last on priority, and they really can, if they think the stack's gonna go, hold off, hold off a little bit, and just really hit that interaction at the right moment. It's one of the things that we enjoy the most, especially because we kind of love to play those 2 and 3. We don't have tutors. We love to see it when that interaction really, man, do they have it? Do they not? Show me the card. Show me the card, man. Like, prove it to me that you have it. Um,
Yeah.
and it's really fun. I love to see it in our play group when we'll remove this and we'll counter this, but before you do that, I'm going to sacrifice this and tutor for that, or whatever it may be. It's really fun to watch, and it doesn't feel good when you go to other play groups and this is the way you play, and they really hate it.
That kind of uh, takes us, into what we really want to promote here, which is, being honest with your group, but also on the other side being lenient, right? Not jumping to conclusion that this person is lying to you, not jumping to the fact that this you think this person's a bad person because they're playing a card, right? Give people leniency for the cards they play, and maybe just have a conversation like, hey, we didn't know you were playing this card. Like, is there any chance you could play like a different deck? Because like we're just not really prepared to, like none of our decks are prepared to battle against this, or you can borrow one of my decks, like whatever it is. Being able to have leniency on a person, but also being honest, right? And we really want to promote that, which is like really big.
Yeah, again, it's just interesting. Your pods in the wild. It's just so hard to gauge them. And honestly, we've really been trying to play a lot with randoms recently at events. It's been a big kind of let's go out and see what's going on. What are people doing? Um, and it's really felt hit and miss with kind of the groups being what thing. I mean, I think the best example is, and this happened a while ago, is we were talking to a guy back pre bracket system. He's like, oh yeah, this was like a 5, maybe a 4. And I remember on turn 2 he dropped an ancient tomb and a mana vault, and my instant thought was, in what world
Ooh.
is this automatically not at least a 6, out of 10 back then? And it just, and it definitely wasn't. And it was one of those things that as it kind of evolved and it went on, it's very clear that he was a CEDH guy that just wasn't playing CEDH that night.
Mm-hmm.
So he was playing his weak deck, which was probably a 9, but I would argue was definitely be in a 5 in the bracket system. But for him, it was one of his slower decks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in his mind, he wasn't lying. It just did not align with the table he was sitting at even remotely close.
Yeah.
It's just a different beast.
But that's the leniency that we brought to that table, which was like we knew that this was not a 5, right? This was not a 5, but we didn't look at this guy and be like, you're a liar because you are playing what is probably like an 8. It was, all right, you are qualifying decks at a very different level than we are. Okay, cool. Like now that we know kind of where you're at, now we can play what we want, like what we can play against you under your that are closer to your evaluation of decks, and
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
brings in that level of leniency where we didn't like yell at the guy, we didn't like call him a liar, we didn't attack him. We were just like, hey, okay, cool. Like we played our decks that were like 5s, and we thought you were playing a 5, and now we understand. I'm gonna pull out this deck, which is probably closer to what you consider a 5 or a 6, and then we played, and we had a great time. The second game we played, great time. It was awesome. It was cool.
Yeah, and I, to go to that with the leniency and all that, I think another thing, and I know it's affected our main pod, is as we used to really dislike Fierce Guardianship, Deadly Rollick, the Deflecting SWAT. I don't know what it was, but 5 or 6 years ago, just hated them, couldn't stand them, didn't want to see them in the group. For whatever reason, free spells are bull, like get this out of here. And then as we played in a couple other groups, we kind of slowly were like, well, they can only do it when the commander's out for free. It's just another layer of interaction. Remove the commander first. It's one of those things. It changed our play group over time as we played with more people who had them. It kind of changed our opinions because we had that rigid kind of closed off to the world. We don't like them. And then after we played with them a couple of times, we're like, well, they're really not that bad. It's what we've softened to some cards, over time. Granted, I think a lot of people will say this. If I see a Winota, even if they're like, this is a 3, I'm like, is it? Is your Winota a 3? There's levels of things I'm like, you are completely misqualifying your deck, and you're probably in your head. You're saying that because it is in your head.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Winota deck I wasn't afraid of. I've never played that game.
Yeah.
I've been in games where Winota didn't have the most incredible showing. But
You're still scared of
it's
it.
always so, and I think a good example for me, it's a deck I no longer play. But I had a Centriplets deck for a very long time. That had no real way to win. The entire goal of my Centriplets deck was for me to play your deck. It had no win con built into the deck itself at all. There was no mass combat, no anything. The goal of that was I'm going to see what you're playing with, and I'm going to play your hand. And I had lots of group hug. You're drawing this, you draw this, you get some mana. And then, all right, on my turn, I'm going to play your hand, and I'm going to play your hand, and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things, I never thought that was powerful because it didn't have a win con. But deep down, people don't like you playing with their hand.
No, they do not.
They do not, which is the big reason why I don't play it. It's it was one of my favorite cards from when it originally released. What was that? Shards, I think. Shards of Alara. And I loved
Yeah.
playing with it back then.
Mm-hmm.
And when we came back to Commander, I'm like, man, I got to do this. I I I love it, but I definitely misrepresented it in my head. It's not that strong. It doesn't really have a way to win. It was incredibly disruptive. It was one of the most disruptive decks I've ever made because it had 14-ish counter spells. I think it had 10 to 12 board wipes. It had 10 to 12 pieces of removal, and then just buttloads of steal and ramp. It had no real way to do anything other than disrupt. But it king made a game like there was no tomorrow, which is over time when I realized I'm like, well, I don't maybe get a lot of wins, but I really decide who comes in first. Uh,
Yeah.
Pretty much
That's
every game. It was that way, and it's one of those things. When I played out and about, I really understood it because when I played in our pod, people understood what it did and kind of played around it, and it didn't feel that powerful, inside of our pod because people kind of understood what my deck did. But out in the wild,
people had no idea.
yeah, for whatever reason, it just dominated these games, and it was just me, Tom, and two other guys, or even one other. It felt really, really, really dominating, and it was one of those things that when I played it in our group, I, I mean, I'm not saying I never had a win, but I'd say it was sparse.
Because we knew how to play it. Like it was just like it was kind of a game of arch enemy of like, okay guys, like here's the deal. Like we're all playing against each other, but we just need to make sure that he can't do anything. Is if we all can just make sure that he doesn't do anything, then like we'll give whoever stops him from doing something, we'll give you a turn of not messing with you if you just stop him from doing something. And then when you get out in the wild, you kind of have to tell these people like, all right, he got this on the board. We have to deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, then we're in trouble. But then sometimes they don't listen, and so it's like they allow it to happen, and then when it comes back to your turn, everyone's like, oh, I didn't know this was gonna happen. I'm like, but I told you. But I told you this was gonna happen. Like this is, and so it's a little frustrating. I mean, definitely like it can be a little rough, especially when you're playing things like I have a discard deck that has the same problem, right? I'm just making people discard. Like, how bad can that be? People hate discarding cards. They hate it. And so it's like it's a deck that, like, even though you may not think it's super powerful at the time whenever you play it, you realize that it's not the fact that people think that it's super powerful, it's that they hate that you just played this. And it can be a little difficult for sure. I mean, it's a little rough.
You know, it's very true, and I think you made a good point about warning other players when you're with somebody, which is probably one of the biggest things in our pod that we sometimes see out in the wild, but not always, is the politics, man.
Oof.
Oh my god. Our game in our standard pod, the politics are the table has memory, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Who won the last game, or who had an impressive showing the last time we played?
You're dead first.
It is never it's never forgotten. We do not forgive, and we do not forget. It's the whole "we'll always pay their debts" is very apt for this, where we're very willing to come in second at times to put someone else in third.
I want you to lose. I want you to not win. I am willing to not win for you not to win. It's a thing, yeah.
It's and as we've gone out, we've encountered. There's been times, especially when I'm playing alone and maybe with a group of other, I'm the only solo there, and it's their pod of 3, and I'm with them, and sometimes there just isn't a lot of deals to be struck in some of these groups. They're like playing very literal, almost feels like 1v1 magic, where they don't seem to want to engage in the table, and like when you start to make an agreement, they're like, what's he doing? Like, why would I play suboptimally? And it's like, well, is it suboptimally, or is it a great deal?
Yeah, I think it's like a really interesting thing because I can definitely see it out in the world. I mean, I know that your decks, at times, and I can think of time the most recent time we played with a pod that we have not played with a long time. I was playing a deck, and you were trying to tell them like, no, this is a problem in his deck. Like this is gonna get him to win. And like I'm doing the thing, like I'm trying to convince everybody, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a problem. Don't worry about it. And you're like, no. This is a problem. This is an issue. And then, they didn't deal with it. They dealt with other pieces on the board, and then it came to my turn, and it was just like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and I win the game. Like and it's like it's that level of, and I know that it's happened with me, it's happened with you, like it's had times where it's like, okay guys, like I played against this deck before, I've been here, I've done this is a problem, and if we don't deal with it, this is what's going to happen. And either they're going to believe you and they're going to deal with this person, or they're not going to deal with you, or they're not going to listen to you. And that person that you're talking about is potentially going to have like a banger turn. And it can be really frustrating at times because it's like, please just listen to me. But at times it's also like, that variance that we talk about, where in the pod that we play with on a more regular basis, like that combo that you're about to do never is allowed to play. Like we know exactly, like, the moment you put that card on the table, I know exactly what's about to happen. And so everyone's like, nope, all right, cool. But not only that, like we're holding up spells specifically for that person to eventually do that thing. So it's a lot harder. Like my deck, my cantrip deck that I have wins, I would say 70% of the time in the wild, but it wins like 25% of the time in our pod, because it's like everyone knows what my shtick is. Like they already know what I'm about to do, and so like the moment I play a card, while innocuous at the time, everyone's like, "Nope, I know exactly what that card's about to do, and I'm going to take care of it right now."
You know, it is interesting how you mentioned that. I tried so hard to politic with these two other guys. I'm like, this is a threat. This needs to be handled. You know, and you played it so well. You're like, oh, it's this, that, and the other. And I remember it goes to the next guy, and he attacks me, and I'm like, what just happened? Why did I get attacked? What? What? But me, poor K, poor K. It was so surreal to me, where I'm like, he doesn't understand. Oh, the otters, they're gonna do terrible, terrible things. Oh, please no. It's in my raccoon wounds. Like, it's just so interesting where, again, these guys, they don't politic a lot, you know, and they're very, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they're very focused on their game and their plan, but not necessarily everybody else's boards in the same way.
Yeah.
um it's just very interesting where in our pod we're probably more interested in what's on our opponent's boards than our own.
Oh, I don't care what's on my board. My board is eventually going to do something. I just got to make sure that you can't do something before I can do something. Like,
Yeah, it's one of those things that most of us, we usually try to have a couple of different kind of major win conditions, and like if one gets removed, it's whatever. But oh, that's got to go. You
yeah,
know, that can't stick around. You know, it's that moment in the right deck where that Guardian Project, nah, it's out. Get it, remove it, gone. No more cards for him.
yep.
Send him to the graveyard. You know, and you know, and I think in our pod, um, we're not afraid if creature removal fails. Use player removal.
Yeah,
That's really good.
it's a really good one. Yeah.
Honestly, player removal is probably the strongest thing you can do. You
Mm-hmm.
think there will be a problem in 2 turns? Don't let them have it 2 turns. They get one. That's it.
Yep.
um, and not all pods are willing to do that. Some pods we've played, and it's really been really interesting, uh, don't have that killer instinct sometimes. You know, where they're not willing to close out the win, and they kind of want to like see a little bit more. And it's like, man, close out the win. Like we want to have fun, but close out the win, man.
If
Like
you
if you
can win,
have to
just
win,
win.
close it out. Yeah, close it out. Get it done, brother. Like it's we're here to have fun, but win. Make the win. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
been nights, and my wife says I'm mean, where I've had really good nights, and sometimes I've won just all 5 games in a row, just boom, 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 just line them up, knock them down. And I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, "You're mean." And I'm like, "No, I'm not mean. When I lose my next game, Tom's gonna go insane. He's gonna be like, yes, he's dead, he's gone, no more." And it's gonna be one of his best wins of that month.
It's gonna
It's
be.
gonna be one of the.
It's one of my favorite pastimes. It's just Ryan losing. Makes me feel so good. Just thinking
It
about
it
it
does. He writes about it on his dream board every day. It's
every day.
unbelievable.
My journal is just Ryan died today. Ryan didn't die today. Ryan lost
I
every
removed Ryan.
game today. Ryan didn't lose every game.
I'd like to think secretly he's planning a tattoo. Just amount of times I've removed Ryan's commanders, and it's
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of hash marks on it. It's gonna be ridiculous. It's just gonna be an entire sleeve all the way up his arm.
I think it's a really
Oh,
it's a really interesting thing. It's kind of funny how you play with friends or people you've played with for a long time, and you look at people in different ways where it's you go out in the wild and if someone wins it's fine, it's cool, it's fun, it is what it is. Congratulations. But then when people you've played with for a long time and you've kind of seen like the win rates or the lose rates or whatever it is, like you just want them to lose so bad. Like that's all you want. Like this game could be great as long as they lose. But then to close us out with like the next piece is combos, right? It is a it is a big thing for combos, right? Infinite combos are kind of something that we talked about. We don't really play a lot. Combos are things that um, we we play actually probably a lot more of just like combos than infinite combos. But I would say that pretty much all of our decks, if they ever have an infinite combo, it's only one, and it usually is you said this before, six or so cards, five. We're not playing two card infinite combos. Like all I have to do is get my this one card and my commander on the field and I win the game. Right? We don't play a lot of those. Now, if you do, you do. Like that's cool. That's fine. But I think that also this is a really big part of that conversation, that rule zero conversation of if you are gonna play a lot of infinite combos, or you're gonna play those two card infinite combos, let people know, right? One thing that I like to do, especially for me, is if I ever play a deck that has infinite combos that have a very little cards, or even infinite combos at all, I like to let people know, like, hey guys, I got these three cards on the table. If I play this one card, I win the game. Just letting them know, like you you need to have this. You need to have something that's gonna stop this, or I'm gonna win the game. And the main reason why I do that specifically is because I don't want the table to have any feel bads about not knowing, right? Especially if I might be playing with players who don't know the combo. Maybe they're new to Magic. They don't understand like what this combo is about to do, and so if they don't catch it, they're not going to know to play against it. And I don't want to win that way, right? I want to win because I played my cards right. I played my cards at the exact time that I played them. Not because I conned you into not knowing the combo, right? I'm never gonna lie to you when you ask me, "Hey, are you playing this card too?" I will tell you, I'm playing that card as well. Like that is how I'm gonna win this game. Um, I will even at times let people know, like, "Hey guys, I got the three cards on the table. I got this card in my hand, which is the fourth piece. If you don't stop me right now, when I untap, I win the game." I like to do that because I don't. I want people to feel like that they're not being bamboozled out of a win, right? And but I want to hear what you have to say, Ryan, about combos, because I know that when it comes down to combos, we have a lot of similarities, but I think that we also might have some differences when it comes down to combos as well.
So as we don't, again, no two card combos. I really hate infinite combos with one card in the commander in particular, just because it's so easy to do it. It's just it feels lame. It's one of those things again where I like the variance, and I just need to draw this card and have their commander. Well, you always have your commander. Um,
Yep.
I'm not a fan of it. Now, this all being said, how we're being negative about combos, we will have. So I have a Prosper deck. Tom has an Izzet deck, and these things might cast 20 spells in a turn. It's gonna be a humdinger of a combo. We're gonna have to dig. We're gonna have to scrape. My personal favorite thing about the Izzet deck in particular is it gonna have it. Because sometimes Tom might cast 20 spells, and that's all he did that turn.
Yeah.
He cast 20 cantrips and nothing else.
Yeah. I couldn't get there.
you
Okay, I couldn't
know,
get to that win.
yeah. Sometimes performance anxiety happens. It's a real thing, and often Izzet players have the worst case of it for whatever reason. Poor Izzet, is it going to work? And something that we're big about is, there's some people who are like, well, I'm about to combo off and win, and they like almost expect people to scoop, and we're like,
Nope.
show me the combo,
Do it up.
show it to me, make it cycle, because you're saying you have it and you've won. I'm like, depending on what you're doing, you didn't win. You might win,
I might have the way to stop
but
you.
let's see if you actually win. Like I'm not saying it's not, but like show me the card, make it real. You know, don't think about it, be about it. Like because more than once we've kind of seen it, and it's really interesting to me with. And this is part of the reason why I hate some of these combos. And I know it's unfair, but some people just look them up on EDHREC, and when they go to actually play the combo, uh, don't know how to do it.
Or they sequence it wrong, or
Uh,
whatever it is.
yeah, like they sequence it, and I'm like, no, you did this and this, you're done. And they're like, oh, but it's supposed to, and I'm like, well, you did it in the wrong order,
Mm-hmm.
or you're missing something. Um, and it's again, combos are great. Again, we love to. All right, let's go. They like to say it about me. Well, Ryan's digging. Let's see what happens. I tend to dig a lot for responses. It's something I really really like to do, and will do consistently. And more than once, I've dug for responses that led to a sack outlet that led to my win, where it wasn't in. I wasn't going for a win. I was going for a dig that then turned into a win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see these combos, and I like really complicated combos when you need this and you need that, and really make it work. When it requires those 3 or 4 pieces, and I'm like, man, you've assembled it all and no one's interacted with it. It doesn't feel bad because people had the chance to interact, especially if it requires multiple turns to set up with artifacts or enchantments. I'm like, have spot removal, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of great removal, and so many people run swords to plowshare, but then for whatever reason don't run feed the swarm. It's like enchantments are real and they can hurt you. Um, you need to remove enchantments, friends. It's important. Same thing with artifacts, and so many people are so focused on creatures. Stop the combos where they may be. Obviously sometimes you don't have the removal, but like as we said, we love interaction. Run lots of removal and make sure they're flexible. It can't just be creature removal. Destroy or exile target permanent is one of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so flexible. Goodbye creature, goodbye enchantment, goodbye
Mm-hmm.
artifact, goodbye whatever it may be. Take your fun, go put it in the corner because you can't play with it no more. I'm sorry, Sally. The doll is done. She's dead. And some of these combos where guys, well, I've assembled it, I get the free win, I have my 2 cards, and I'm like, well, no, you have to attack before you go to combat. I will cast, whatever. Or they're like, well, the second this creature dies or something, I'm like, well, I'm gonna exile
I think it brings us to like it brings up a
um,
really good point that like we when we play, we're pretty lenient about play, right? Like if play
yeah,
things in like the wrong order, we'll let you kind of take it back and kind of play. Combos is the one place that we are pretty strict on the rules, because this tends to be the case where you're going to win the game, and the expectation is that you're going to play this right. And if you
yeah,
don't play it right, then I'm sorry, we're not going to allow that to resolve, and we won't let you take it back, because this isn't like you could have got an extra 2 damage on an attack, or you could have gained an extra 2 life because of lifelink, or this was going to allow you to play a card that whatever it was, and the sequencing was off, but it's going to give you like a little bit more benefit because of a sequencing. This isn't one of those cases. This is, if I let you take this back, you're going to win the game. And while at times we have allowed this to happen because the game has gone for so long, we're like, okay, cool, you're gonna end the game, whatever. We'll let you take it back and we'll let you resequence this so you can end the game. But for a lot of times, we're like, no, the expectation here, if you're gonna win the game, right? And win the game right. It's the same reason of like, I making them have it, right? It's the same. It's the same thing. Like making them have it is the idea of, like, you're gonna play this thing that's gonna remove my thing at the right time to stop me from doing whatever it is I'm gonna do. It's That's part of like why we like part of the whole game of Magic, right? While Commander is a very casual format, that is one place we don't tend to let the casual part come in because if you're gonna win the game, win it right.
Yeah, it's also the whole ever math is for blockers. I'm gonna do the math
Yep.
because if you just miscalculated in your head and I can block and survive, oh, I'm gonna crack back so hard.
Yeah.
It's gonna be as much crackback as physically possible before I die next turn. There will be some return to sender, whatever it may be. Granted, it could be 2 damage because that's all I have, but man, that 2 damage is gonna
Coming
feel
right
righteous,
at you.
brother. It's gonna feel so good. You don't understand. Lightning bolt. Yes. So sometimes that's all you have, but sometimes that's all you need. Like you might have lost, but sometimes that 5 extra damage in crackback can be what the person to your left needs to beat the person in front of you. Don't scoop, man. Like well, that's another thing in our pod. We don't scoop.
We don't
Like
scoop.
you just I no, we don't do it. Like we've run into a lot of players, and people are very willing to scoop at times. It actually really bothers me where if they get really far behind, they will. But man, I mean, I think that's probably the last thing we'll say here is as a pod, like especially me and Tom, man, we don't scoop. Even back when we played 2007 one-on-one Magic,
You're gonna win
man,
this
there was
straight
no
up.
scoop. There was like if I'm scooping up my cards, it's because you attacked me for lethal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because of anything else. It's
Yeah. Yep.
because when you scoop, especially, and this is a big reason why we don't like to scoop. Make the person in front of you have the win, because sometimes if you just survive at 5 health, man, that's all the person to your left needed to win was you still be in the game because you're that just disruptive enough,
Yep.
you
They
know,
did the math
to
wrong. They
to
did
do.
something wrong. They did something that was, yeah. There's a lot of reasons why not scooping is a thing that you should be
Yeah,
willing to not scoop because yeah, like you said, I mean they could have just done the math wrong and
yeah.
oh you do have just enough blockers to survive. Well shoot. All right. Well.
It's funny. Yeah, again, math is not just for blockers. Uh, not unless you have creatures that are far too large and far too much trample, or some kind of cactus that's going to be out here soon enough with trample. Not on its own, but I just say math might be irrelevant at times with a particular creature that will be released this year. But that's neither here nor there. That's part for an episode at my TED talk where I'm going to be upset at a card that probably won't be that impactful, but just will be a required response. But
Now, guys, I know that we've been joking a lot about the power level system and all the things. And while we are having our fun and we're joking about it, really a big thanks to the people who are doing this. Right? They're trying to make it really good for us, and all the hard work that they're putting in there to make this as good of a game as possible. Right? They're doing it for us, and I want to give a clap to all of the people who are participating in that because it's a really big deal for the game. It's a really big deal for Commander. Uh, we're having our jokes, but big thanks to them.
yeah, I have to agree. It's a balancing problem. I would never want to take on myself. It's incredible that they're taking it on. And I think before we close out, the one thing I want to say is if there's ever anybody dev working on that who watches this, take a big swing, man. I'd love to see big changes. Like even if it's wrong, I'd love to see big changes. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's I think that they're going to make mistakes and that's okay as long as they're propelling it forward. I think it's okay that it's imperfect because this game is far too large to ever be perfect. Like it's just too big.
Yep.
And I think you have huge props to them. Like definitely, you know, get Gavin and everybody there, huge props. So
Absolutely.
from here, all of us here at Swamp Talk, these are kind of our rules, our pods, our expectations. If you play differently, let us know. Let us know down in the comments. Like, subscribe. Tell us we're right. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us how could you guys not soft ban Smothering Tide. Whatever it may be. If there's a card you hate, let us know. If there's a card you love, let us know. Um, say we're out of here. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Thomas.
See y'all.
We're out.